Hi, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and today I'm going to do my December nonfiction review. I actually ended up reading 2 nonfiction books in December for my 12 Days of Christmas Carol Advent Calendar Challenge, and I will link those up in the cards and then down in the description box below so you can check them out if you're interested in knowing more about these books, because during those videos I'm actually reading the books and sort of discussing them as I go along. So the first book I want to talk about is The Genius of Birds by Jennifer Ackerman, and this is a popular science nonfiction book. Jennifer Ackerman has been writing about popular science, so birds, human biology, things like that, for probably about 3 decades. I don't really know what her history in science is. I don't know if she actually got a degree in science or if she's just been writing about science for many years. She actually got her interest in birds when she was a child because her father was a big birder and she would go birding with him, so she started falling in love with birds at that point, which I guess is why she wanted to write this book. So this book was specifically about bird intelligence, the genius of birds, and she was discussing a lot of the research that has gone on that looks at different factors that you could consider intelligence, like birdsong and the creation of birdsong. So basically the language of birds, and then memory or spatial understanding, because birds, especially birds like pigeons, have amazing spatial recognition as well as fantastic memories, which you wouldn't believe about pigeons because they have this horrible reputation for being really dumb birds. But realistically, they have one of the best memories, and they're also incredible at navigating. You can take a pigeon and basically blindfold it and drop it off anywhere, spin it around 10 times, drop it off anywhere on the planet, and it will find its way home within a reasonable amount of time, which is incredible. I learned a lot from this book, and considering I've taken quite a few classes in animal behavior, I was impressed by the different stories that she was able to add in here, considering when you look at animal behavior books written in popular science, they tend to use a lot of the same kind of case studies, a lot of the same examples, and that's great because it reinforces those ideas. They show something that's really significant and they're really incredible, but you know, you've heard it once, you've heard it twice, you hear it 5, 6, 7 times, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to learn something new. And I did enjoy that she added quite a few new stories into this that I hadn't ever heard. The parts that I liked the most about this book were the middle section, probably the middle 5 or 6 chapters that were on the specific topics of bird intelligence. Like I said, on the topic of birdsong, there'd be a whole chapter for that. And those are my favorite sections because I felt like she did a really good job going into depth on those topics. They were very engaging, and I felt like they were very accessible for the common reader. It's not something you need to know science to enjoy, in my opinion. At least I thought. So, of course, I love science, so if you hate science, maybe you wouldn't enjoy it. I don't know, I thought that those sections were very accessible. The areas that I had issues with in this book were areas that were kind of disappointing because it was the introduction, the first 2 chapters. I felt like they were jargon heavy, I didn't feel like they were well organized, and I kind of felt like they were sort of jumbled, like she jumped from topic to topic really quickly, and then she kind of rushed you into the content. And if you're picking up this book and you're trying to get into it, I don't know that that first section is going to enthrall you. It wasn't that enthralling to me, and I felt like, okay, but this is our taste into this book, and it just wasn't as strong as the rest of the book. So I was a little disappointed in that, and then the conclusion was really disappointing. It was really short. I didn't feel like it did a great job of summarizing everything she had talked about before that, and it was just like, you know, introduction, content amazing, like really small conclusion. And it was just kind of strange. Ultimately a really well received book, and I think a lot of people liked it, so it could just be me, my feelings about the intro and the conclusion. So I would recommend this book to you if you're someone who's interested in animal behavior in any way. I feel like birds are a great place to start because there are a lot of studies that go on with birds because they have so many different adaptations, so many different behaviors. They reflect a lot of the things that we see even in the human world, but within different birds. And there's just so much you can learn about animal behavior in general from birds. Hey, it's Editing Amy here, and I wanted to add something to this which I think is interesting. You may not, but I think it is. Another reason that birds are so well studied is because a lot of people like birds. In the science world, the animals that people are most interested in, the ones that they find cutest or the ones that they think are the most beautiful for various different reasons, those are the animals that get studied the most because they get the most funding, because a lot of people are interested in those animals. So birds are so well loved by birders and people who love birds that they've been studied so much because a lot of funding has gone to learning about birds. And it also helps, like I said here, that they're very interesting. Birds are very interesting, and there's a big variety in their adaptations. I also thought she did a really good job of comparing human behaviors and human intelligences to animal behavior. So this might be something that you're interested in if you want to learn a little bit more about humans even, because there were a few things that I was like, I didn't even know about that. I didn't realize that. And also, if you're someone who doesn't read that much science, this might be good because it doesn't really read like a textbook. You could really enjoy this. There's a lot of fun little stories in here, and I think that it's pretty easy to get into once you kind of get past that introduction. The second book I want to talk about is Maid. Hard Work, Low Pay, and a Mother's Will to Survive by Stephanie Land. Stephanie Land is a woman who was with a man who was domestically violent. He was mostly verbally violent, but he was punching holes in the walls and stuff like that. And so she got pregnant with him, but she finally realized she needed to leave. The relationship with her family is really strange. Once she turned old enough, her family's like, okay, we're done cooking you. You're done. Go off into the world. We don't want to have anything else to do with you. At least that was the case with her mom. And she fell on really, really hard times because she was out of this relationship. She had nowhere to go, so she became homeless, and she was actually in a homeless shelter. She kept trying to work and doing anything that she could to support her and her daughter. And at one point, she ends up being able to transition into temporary housing. And then she's finally able to get some Section 8 housing and get her own place with her daughter. During this time, she starts working in landscaping, but that's really seasonal, especially since she lives in Washington, which was enjoyable because I like reading books about Washington. She starts doing some work for some of the maid services, and then she becomes a maid full-time. So during this whole book, you're really learning about her experience, what it's like working as a maid, what it's like dealing with this poverty that she never expected to fall into, and how she's trying to lift herself out of the poverty, which is hard because anytime she gets a leg up or a little bit ahead, or she can save a teeny bit of money, funding and whatnot gets pulled away because you've made more, so you don't need any more. And the reality of that is then she has to use up those savings because things happen. She gets into a car accident or something. There was only ever enough to survive day to day. And so she struggled. She struggled so much. And she really just wanted a safe, healthy place for her and her daughter to live. So the things I liked about this book was that it was a really interesting topic. And about halfway through the story to the end, I really started seeing Stephanie Land, who she was as a person, what her emotions were, how she was feeling about the situations that she was in. And that's when I really started enjoying it, and I had a hard time putting it down. My issues were that the first half of the book wasn't like that. I feel like she was very descriptive in the sense that she was talking a lot about the things that were happening to her, but it felt very surface level, a little shallow at times. I just wanted a lot more of the emotion. I wanted to know really what her experience was like I did in the second half of the book. So that was where I felt it was lacking a little bit for me. And maybe that was just me, and maybe that wasn't the same for everybody else. And granted, it's a memoir, so it's really hard to rate memoirs because they're someone else's experience. And I know that she's just allowing me to be part of her experience. But I have read quite a few memoirs, and that was how I felt. Like, if you had let me in for the first half, I would have enjoyed the book as a whole a lot more. I think that you should read this book if you're someone who wants to learn more about a difficult lifestyle, someone who has struggled, someone who thought they at least had enough to live a happy, healthy life, and then they fell on hard times and had to try and struggle their way out of it. And she really did struggle a lot. So if you're interested in learning more about the perspective of someone who had to become a maid for wealthy people and how that was demoralizing at times and how she just struggled to survive day to day, then I think you'll enjoy this. The topic was very interesting, and ultimately I did enjoy this book. It was a good book. So that's it. Those are the two books I read. If you've read either of these books, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about them. Or if you read any nonfiction in December, let me know in the comment section down below what you read and what you thought about it. If you like this video, click the like button and subscribe so you can see what kind of nonfiction books I read going forward. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Bye.